Hello, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about mental clutter. Initially, I was going to call this like creative constipation or like something a little bit more gruesome, but I have been struggling with this for a very long time, and I think that I've finally decluttered myself a little bit enough to talk about it. Excuse me, I'm actually recording this on March 31st, right after the 2-hour track challenge ended. So this is going up in about 12 hours, but it actually is the main point that I wanted to talk about, where this last week has been incredibly chaotic for me, for reasons I'll probably get into later, but basically a lot of things that I've wanted to do for many months, or needed to do, probably more accurately, I finally actually sat down and became an adult and actually did it. And getting all of those things out of my mind helps quite a bit in having the clarity to think about things and approach things in new ways. One of these things, and I can talk about it a little bit. I had a kidney stone back in September, and I never really passed it, and I had to set up a surgery date to do so. And I finally did that because I needed to just get it done and over with. And scheduling that and getting a proper diagnosis and a proper like surgery set up to actually do it. And thankfully the surgery isn't super invasive. But getting all of that set up kind of collapsed the probability field. if you want to get scientific about it, it's like I didn't know what exactly would happen when I got a follow-up checkup for that. Like it's not like you can die from a kidney stone really, but you can run into a lot of complications. It could have grown to the point where they have to remove it surgically. But talking to a doctor about it, getting a proper scan, getting somebody to give their professional opinion and set up a small procedure to get that removed, like that relieved a lot of stress for me. And that was stress that I didn't know I was carrying. It was something that like I needed to just do. And I did not have the mental energy to do it, especially after the kitchen remodel in December. Like I just kind of turned into a blob and I don't really know what happened for the past 3 months, just due to depression and a lot of other just life stuff happening, one thing after another. Not to mention the weather being cold, being stuck indoors, having all of this stuff happening, just kind of cluttered my brain up. And I wasn't able to move forward on a lot of projects that I wanted to move forward on simply because I didn't have the mental energy, because it was all being consumed by these things in the background. Because again, I didn't know that this was happening. Like I wasn't like, oh man, if I just did this one thing, I would feel better. Because I didn't know that it was consuming so much of my mental energy. And the same thing with creative projects. Like I released Pandemonium. I released, Bullet Hero. Like I released both these games and they both still have bugs that I need to go back and fix, but it just became too mentally overwhelming to think about going back and fixing those games. And last week I went on vacation, a very brief vacation, for my wife's birthday. And when I got back, like the first thing I did is I just sat down and I jammed out a bunch of stuff for Pandemonium. There's still issues that I need to resolve, but the fact that I was able to just sit down and just do it, that was a huge milestone for me. And I think part of it was just having the time to take away from being able to take time away from, the busy life that I had, and just to like reset a little bit. Sorry if I'm not speaking in coherent sentences. It's been a hell of a week. But yeah, like just having that ability to just clear your mind and understand what's weighing you down can go a very, very long way to hopefully resolving excuse me, some of the creative issues that you have, and allows you to like get back on track to where you were. Because I still think about where I was in October and November, and I was just killing it back then. I was doing so many things, and I was really, really motivated and driven. And the past 4 months have been such a slog. Partially because of the kitchen remodel really tore my whole studio apart, and then getting all that back together. Like, it's still not fully back together. I still have boxes in here and stuff, but it's just having the ability to just get all this stuff off my mind, and hopefully having a fresh, clean mind. Maybe that's what I'll call this. I'll call this have a clean mind. That still doesn't make sense. Just being able to unburden yourself from these things. And granted, I know not everything can be like just dropped. Like there's chronic pain. There's a lot of just like financial issues that aren't something that you can just make a phone call and have go away. But just kind of understand where, for me anyway, I'm trying to understand where I'm at, what things I can do to resolve this, and try to better understand how to manage things in the future. Here's another good example. I've been trying to become more responsible financially. And what I did from that is I kind of tabulated up all of the bills that I get throughout the year. And I tried to figure out, like, you know, I have X number of dollars worth of bills every year. I should just take a portion of that out of my paycheck every time that adds up to about that amount. So really, that's just not something I have to worry about anymore. I just chuck that into a special account. And I don't think about it. That's not my money. That's like the government's money, like, or the city's money, or like the internet provider's money. That's not mine. I'm just holding on to it for them. And then I can just automate that transfer from my paycheck. So whenever I get my paycheck every other Friday, like a certain amount of money just goes into that account for bills. And then whenever I need to pay a bill, like whenever it comes in the mail, I just send it off. And I don't have to think about it because I already did the math. And, you know, I'll check in on it every couple months just to make sure that the levels aren't getting too high or too low. And even some of the bigger bills, like property tax or whatever, like, that happens twice a year. I know exactly the number it's going to be. So I might as well just, schedule it to be sent right now. Even though the bill is being like paid for in October, I can schedule that right now through my bank. So why not just do it now? And then I don't have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about paying that bill until next year when I get it again. And I know that I'll have funds in the account because I'll be dropping, you know, X number of dollars from my paycheck into that account every month or every 2 weeks. So it's just like that kind of stuff is really transformative for me. Just because it allows me to not have to worry about things, and worrying about things for me personally is the mind killer. Because it's just something that consumes my thought process. And when I get into my streams, I forget about that stuff and I get into that flow state, and things just roll, and that's great. But when trying to get into that state is really hard. Like today, I was super stressed out because I was on the phone with hospitals for like 2 hours, like not only worrying about like figuring out scheduling for the procedure, but also like paying an exorbitant amount of money because, you know, insurance in the United States sucks, and you still have to pay a lot of money for procedures that improve your quality of life. That's a whole nother topic that's not really within the purview of this podcast, but you know what I mean? Like I did not want to stream today. I really didn't. But when I sat down and I got into it, I had probably the most fun in a long time, simply because I was able to let go of all of these issues that I've been experiencing. And I think removing all of that uncertainty from my life, knowing what's happening with the kidney stone, not only knowing what's happening with the stone, but I have a date in which it's going to be removed. I know like my follow-up procedure, like I have all of that scheduled out, and I know that that's what's going to happen. And now I just need to experience the present instead of worrying about the future. There we go. I figured it out. Experience the present. That's the name of this. That's the name of this episode. No, that still doesn't really work. Creative clutter. I'll stick with that. Anyway, I hope you understand. This is a really rambly one, and I apologize for that. But I've heard that some people like those, so maybe you'll enjoy this one. But yeah, I really do appreciate you listening and supporting this this podcast and my Patreon in general. And I know I've said this a couple of times now, but I finally feel like I'm over that hump where it's like I feel like I'm motivated to actually do new things now, and that's like huge for me because the past 4 months have been incredibly difficult. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this year and really knocking stuff out. Like I think that things are finally starting to work in my favor, which hasn't happened for a while. So anyway, again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting my Patreon campaign. I hope that you have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will talk at you, I guess, in the next one. Be remarkable.